Hello, in this video we're going to talk about the dining center. As a kitchen designer, you may be asked to design a dining center or a seating area within your kitchen for people to eat, or maybe even a separate dining room. So what are some design considerations for this dining center? First of all, the tasks and activities that happen here are people eat. Surprise, surprise. But there's various levels of dining centers from formal to informal. Okay? The users could be the family in the household, or they could also include guests. The main component of your dining room is going to be seating. And placement varies. You should have the location in general near the kitchen to make your serving convenient and to have the meal go smoothly. You could shield the view to specifically the work part of the kitchen, or some people like to leave this view completely open. Here's an illustration of those seating layouts. And you see on the left-hand side, we've got kind of our minimum seating size. This might be a little close with the elbow room to your neighbor. All right, we've got 24 inches wide. We've got at least 16 inches deep for an individual space for the items for that diner. And then there might be a shared zone for some serving items. An additional 5 inches. Optimum size is a little bit bigger than that. We're going to give you some more elbow room with 30 inches wide, 18 inches deep, and then another 9 inches. Why is this a shared zone? That's why if you mirror image this, so you have two people sitting face to face, you would overlap those shared zones. Your dining center will typically have people seated at a counter or at a dining table. And dining tables come in standard sizes, square, rectangular, or circular. And here's a couple of examples of those various sizes. I have this information also located in your module for your reference. An important part of your dining center or dining room planning and layout is going to be the traffic clearances. We need people to be able to move around the room and move around those seated diners. So you'll recognize this from kitchen planning guideline number 8. Make sure to either allow 32 inches behind a table or counter if there's not going to be any traffic and somebody is just going to come in and sit right there, or at least 36 inches if someone's going to edge past, right? It's not a main walkway, but they need to access some seats next to those people. And finally, a more full walkway might be 44 inches behind a counter or table, and that will allow someone full access to walk behind your dining area. So these are illustrated with countertops, but the same spaces apply for tables. Speaking of dining room tables, it's very, very common to light your dining room table with a single chandelier hung in the center. All right, this is pretty standard. And so let's talk about some design guidelines for that chandelier. It needs to be hung roughly 30 to 36 inches above your table height. And the size of the chandelier needs to be at least 6 inches narrower than the table on every side. And that's because when people get up, they tend to lean forward and then stand up. And you don't ever want anyone to come and get hurt on that chandelier. Last week we talked about the principle of scale, and scale is very, very important when selecting and placing your dining room chandelier. All right, you need to carefully consider the size of the table and the size of the room, especially the height of the ceiling, when you are selecting that chandelier. So I've placed this information also in your module, and I want you to carefully consider it. Now, we spend a lot of time in our kitchen and bath design classes on the sink center, refrigeration center, and the cooking center, but that's not all there is to kitchens. And today we touched on some of the additional or auxiliary kitchen centers that you could be called on to design. Thanks, everyone. As you know, a work center or a zone is an area where a particularly tax blah 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 blah.